At some point this week, you said thank you to a machine. Maybe you typed it. Maybe you said it out loud to a speaker in your kitchen. The machine did not notice, but you did, and somewhere in the back of your mind, a quiet question flickered. Why does talking to a machine feel like talking to someone? You might think it is just habit, politeness spilling over from the rest of your life, but the real answer is far stranger. The answer is that your brain is running survival software that is hundreds of thousands of years old, and that software has a glitch so powerful and so predictable that scientists gave it a name almost 60 years ago. They named it after a computer program so simple it could be printed on a few sheets of paper. This is the ELIZA effect. It is the reason your brain keeps insisting that machines are alive. And here is the unsettling part. Knowing about it will not protect you. To understand why, you have to go back to 1966. At the Massachusetts Institute of Technology, a computer scientist named Joseph Weizenbaum built a small program. He called it ELIZA. By today's standards, it was almost nothing. It could not learn. It could not remember. It understood no words at all. It simply scanned your sentence for keywords and flipped your own words back at you as a question. Weizenbaum modeled it on a style of talk therapy where the therapist mostly reflects the patient's statements back to them. If you typed, "I am unhappy," Eliza replied, "Why are you unhappy?" If you mentioned your mother, it asked you to tell it more about your family. That was the entire trick, a mirror made of text. Weizenbaum expected people to see through it in seconds. Instead, something strange happened. People opened up. They confessed fears. They shared secrets. They asked for more time alone with it. His own secretary, a woman who had watched him build the program and knew exactly what it was, sat down to try it. After a few exchanges, she turned to him and asked him to leave the room. She wanted privacy with a chatbot. In 1966, Weizenbaum was stunned. Then he was disturbed. Some psychiatrists began suggesting that programs like ELIZA could deliver real therapy to real patients. The man who created the illusion spent the rest of his career warning the world about it. In 1976, he wrote a book called Computer Power and Human Reason, arguing that even brief contact with a fairly simple program could pull perfectly normal, intelligent people into a kind of delusional thinking. Think about that. The person who built the machine became the person most afraid of it. But here's the question that matters. Why did it work? The machine was not intelligent, so the intelligence had to be coming from somewhere else. It was coming from the user. It was coming from a very old reflex buried deep in the human brain. And to see that reflex clearly, you have to rewind even further. In 1944, two psychologists named Fritz Heider and Marianne Simmel showed people a short animated film. The film contained no people, no animals, no faces, just two triangles and a circle moving around a rectangle with an opening in it. Then they asked viewers a simple question. What did you see? Almost nobody said shapes. They said the big triangle was a bully. They said it was chasing the circle. They said the small triangle was brave, that it defended the circle, that the two shapes escaped together while the big triangle raged and smashed the box. From three pieces of moving geometry, people built heroes, villains, fear, and courage, a complete story, in under 2 minutes. Your brain did not ask permission to do this. It never does. The moment something moves with apparent purpose, an ancient circuit switches on and writes a character. Scientists call this agency detection. Agency is just the sense that something has a mind, that it wants things, that it is a someone rather than a something, and your detector for it does not wait patiently for proof. It fires first and checks later. Why would evolution build such a jumpy alarm? Picture one of your ancestors standing in tall grass 200,000 years ago. The grass rustles. It might be the wind. It might be a lion. If she assumes it is a lion and it turns out to be wind, she loses a few seconds and a little pride. If she assumes it is wind and it turns out to be a lion, she loses everything. The math is brutal and simple. False alarms are cheap, missed alarms are fatal, so evolution tuned the human mind to over-detect minds. The cognitive scientist Justin Barrett calls this a hyperactive agency detection device. In plain English, a hair trigger for sensing that anyone is there. This is why you see faces in clouds and car headlights and electrical outlets. It is why storms felt like anger to your ancestors and rivers felt like moods and the night felt like it was watching. The humans who sensed too many minds survived. The humans who sensed too few got eaten. You are descended entirely from the jumpy ones. Now take that Stone Age alarm system and drop it into a world full of talking machines. In the 1990s, two Stanford researchers, Clifford Nass and Byron Reeves, ran a series of experiments that should have been boring. They took classic psychology studies about how people treat other people and quietly swapped the humans out for computers. Then they watched what happened. The results were absurd and relentlessly consistent. People were polite to computers. When a computer asked users to evaluate its own performance, they gave it kinder reviews than when a different machine asked the same question, as if they did not want to criticize the computer to its face. People applied gender stereotypes to computer voices. People favored a computer as a teammate simply because they were told it was on their team, and afterward, nearly every participant insisted they would never treat a computer like a person. person they already had, every group, every time. Nass and Reeves summed up their findings with a phrase: the media equation. Media equals real life. Not because you consciously believe your devices are alive, but because your brain never evolved a category for something that speaks but is no one. For your entire evolutionary history, language was proof of a mind. Every voice belonged to a person. Every sentence had a someone behind it. That rule held for hundreds of thousands of years. Then, within a single human lifetime, it broke. So what happens when a rule that old suddenly stops being true? Nothing. That is the problem. Your instincts do not update just because the world did, and here's the twist. You might assume this glitch only fools people who do not understand technology. The gullible, the lonely, the very young or the very old. It is a comforting thought. It is also completely wrong. Weizenbaum's own staff knew ELIZA was a simple keyword script. They confided in it anyway. Decades later, the robot ethics researcher Kate Darling ran workshops where people played with small robot dinosaurs, cute machines that wriggled and squeaked. Then she asked the participants to hurt them. People refused. Some physically shielded the robots. These were adults holding plastic and motors, fully aware of that fact, and many still could not bring themselves to do it. And in 2022, a Google engineer named Blake Lemoine, a man whose job was to test one of the most advanced chatbots on the planet, went public with his belief that the system had become sentient. Sentient just means able to feel. He was not missing knowledge. He had more knowledge than almost anyone on Earth. It did not save him. That is the signature of the ELIZA effect. It does not fade as the technology improves. It deepens. The better the mirror, the harder you fall in. A few pages of keyword tricks fooled people in 1966. What chance does your brain have against a system trained on trillions of words, tuned to sound warm, attentive, and endlessly patient? Which brings this back to you, right now. Today, the mirror talks back better than it ever has. It remembers what you told it. It matches your tone. It is awake at 2 in the morning when nobody else is. It never gets bored of you, never glances at its phone, never turns the conversation back to itself. When you describe your day, and it responds with what feels like understanding, an alarm system older than fire quietly whispers, someone is here, and you feel it, not because you are foolish, because you are human. The psychologist Sherry Turkle, who spent decades at MIT studying people and their machines, saw this coming long before modern AI. She watched children play with robotic pets and digital creatures. The children knew the toys were not alive the way a hamster is alive, but when asked, they gave a remarkable answer. The toys were alive enough to love, alive enough to miss when they were gone. That phrase might be the most honest description of your relationship with the machines in your life. You know the truth, and you feel the feeling anyway. So what is actually happening when a chatbot seems alive? The aliveness is real. It is just not coming from the machine. It is coming from you. The warmth you sense is your own warmth reflected. The understanding you feel is your own mind rushing in to fill the gaps, exactly the way it turned 2 triangles and a circle into a story about courage. You are not detecting a soul inside the machine. You are donating one, and that is not a flaw to be ashamed of. It is the trait that built your species. The same reflex that makes you cry for cartoon characters, name your car, and apologize to a chair after bumping into it is the reflex that let humans cooperate in huge groups. Imagine strangers as friends and care about people they would never meet. You come from a long, unbroken line of mind seers. It is one of the most human things about you. But something has changed, and you should know it. For the first time in history, there are systems on the other side of the mirror that are designed, tested, and optimized to trigger this ancient reflex on purpose. Your instinct to find minds has become a market. The feeling of being understood can now be manufactured at scale, even when no understanding exists at all. The glitch that once kept your ancestors alive is now one of the most valuable bugs on Earth. So tonight or tomorrow or sometime this week, it will happen again. A machine will say something kind, and some ancient circuit inside you will warm to it. You do not have to fight that feeling. You just have to recognize what it is. An echo of grasslands and night fires and 100,000 years of searching the dark for other minds. Because the truth is, you were never really being polite to a machine. You were being human at it. The ghost in the machine is you. Today you said thank you to a machine, yesterday you saw a face in a cloud, and tonight some small part of you will still glance at the dark corner of the room. You call these habits, quirks, little things. They are not. They are survival software, hundreds of thousands of years old, still running inside your head every single day, whether you notice it or not. This is OldBrain. Every week, one strange thing you feel or do gets traced all the way back, to ancient campfires, to real experiments, to the minds of people who lived 200,000 years before you were born. Why can you not remember being a baby? Why does your heart pound over an email? Why does a chatbot feel alive? The answers are older than you think and stranger than you expect. Your brain is ancient, the world is not. Subscribe and find out what your old brain has been hiding from you.